I'm Cory and this is my son Xavier.
Hello.
If you're watching this is the very first YouTube video on our new channel, Cory and Xavier. And we're going to be putting together Xavier's new PC. It's actually going to be a Christmas present, but we're doing it just a couple of weeks early just to make sure it's going to work and get ready for Christmas Day.
With that being said, we're going to name a few of the parts and components we'll be using to build the PC. And I'll allow my dad to do the honors of that because to be honest with you guys and girls out there, I don't know half of the stuff here that is laying on this table.
That's okay. We're going to be putting this together. I'm going to be supervising Xavier. He's going to be doing all the work, and I'm going to be talking him through it. I've built about 5 PCs in my life, so this will be the 6th. And with that, let's get started. This is a Stormtrooper case. It's the same case I got. He wanted the same case I have. I have a Proteus Core mouse over here. It's the same mouse I have. We have an EVGA power supply, a MSI 970 gaming motherboard. We have an ADATA SSD. This is a solid state drive, and this is a mechanical hard drive. It's 3 terabyte. This is a XFX R7 series video card. It's a 260X. It's a Corsair Strafe keyboard with a RGB. We have some Sniper RAM here. This is by G.Skill, and this is a 4-core AMD FX 4350 processor, and it has the heatsink in with it. Actually, I think it's a fan, but
Okay. With that being said, let's go ahead and start unboxing this stuff and let's get to work.
alright, man, let's go. We've got the table cleaned off, and we're going to be starting with prepping the case. First, we need to unbox it. We're going to do that, and we'll be right back with you. Alright, we've got the case unboxed, and we have a user manual here. There's no shame in consulting the user manual. This can be your best friend. I use it, and don't think that people that know how to do this doesn't consult the manual, because there's a lot of technical information in here that's specific to items, and it's just a good reference to have, so keep this handy. I know I'm going to be referring to it. So the first order of business, Xavier, is we need to remove the side panels. There's a side panel here and a side panel on this side, and you do that by unscrewing these thumb screws in the back. Now it's good to have a little bowl or some kind of something to put your screws in so you don't misplace them. Okay, so go ahead and take that off, and we'll get something to put the screws in. So I found a little cup to put our screws in. So now that we got our screws out, to remove the panel, you slide this panel back and it'll come off. So Xavier, go ahead and do that.
Okay, wait, which?
So you just slide it off and easily take, and you want to put this back in the original box, and it'll keep from getting it skin up. So we'll take and put that back in the original box. And there's another panel on the other side, so we're going to take that off. Do it the same way, slide it back and it'll tilt away. Okay? And when you put this in, make sure you don't skin the other one up putting it in. Now we have full access to the case with the exception of the front. And to get access to the front, these things right here, these little covers, just snap off. So come around here, Xavier, and alright, so to get them off, you push in on each side and they come out.
Let's see what's inside. Last one. There we go.
Okay. Now this case has a special drawer in the bottom, and you access the drawer by pushing in on each side of the spring-loaded clamps and pulling this cover off. I'm going to let Xavier do that because he's going to do the whole PC assembly. And it actually has its own little hardware tray in here, but it's screwed in. We got to get a screwdriver and get it out. Okay, we got a screwdriver, and Xavier's going to unscrew it. I'm going to get a close-up of it.
Okay. Let's go right in here. We have 2 bolts on both sides, one far left and one far right.
Lefty loosey, righty tighty, buddy.
I'm not smart.
He is very smart. Don't let him deceive you. He's just not experienced.
Oh, there's a FaceTime for everything. Nut fell in there.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Get it out.
I'm gonna set that in the cup real quick. Okay. Next one. Oh,
You gotta push in and turn on it.
I'm doing my best.
You don't want to turn
Okay,
the screwdriver and not turn the screw because you'll round the head of it off.
Okay.
Now that the screws are out, we can slide the tray out.
Okay. It's got a little top on here. So let's just pull this on.
Slide it all the way out. Slide it all the way out.
Okay. So you want to push up on this, then it comes out like so.
In the tray we have parts for the case. There are some slides for the hard drive and some extra wiring, and we'll get to all that as we need it. So now that we've got the case disassembled, we can start prepping it and start adding the components. Okay, on this particular case we're actually going to rotate the fans so that they pull from front to back. So to do that, there's a nut, one on each side of these cages. We're going to take that off and just slide those out.
Okay.
Make sure you put that in your cup.
Yes, sir.
Take the ones out on the inside.
Okay. Now people say lefty loosey, righty tighty. Doesn't feel like it's getting looser. They're not coming out on me.
Did you get it?
They're not coming out on me. The top one isn't. Okay.
Now that the nuts are out, we'll have to disconnect the fans. And these are the fan wires. So to disconnect the fan, you pull out on this little tab and pull it apart. And want to make sure that we know how to plug this back up, so pay careful attention when you unplug it, that you know how it goes back together.
Okay.
Each fan has 2 sets of wires. This is a thicker black wire with a gray stripe on it, and this has a black and kind of a dark brown, and the connections are a little different. For each one of these fans, there's 2 fans. You have to unplug both sets of wires so you can slide the cage out. So Xavier, do that.
Okay.
Press on it. Pull it apart. There's a little lever on this connection type. There's a little lever right there. Press on the lever and pull it apart.
Okay.
So on this type, you may have to pull up on the middle part, but this one should just slide apart. Okay? And then this cage is ready to come out. So do the other one.
Okay. Gotta get the lever here. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. And the
Okay.
other one just pulls up.
Now you can just slide the cages out. You push the cages through and pull them out the other side. Just be careful, don't pull on the fan. And don't snag the wires on the way out.
Okay, one box out, one fan out. And there's the second.
Okay, I'm going to set those to the side because we don't need them right now. Okay, we've turned the case on its side so we can put the power supply in. Have a power supply here. Xavier, why don't you go ahead and unbox that?
I sure will.
This is the back of the case. This is the bottom of the case. This case has filters in it, but I think they're okay. We don't have to remove those. Let's tilt the box up so we don't spill everything. You can leave those in there and just get the power supply out.
That's a fan right there.
This is the power supply. This is a semi-modular power supply, meaning it's got some permanently attached cables, and then it's got some disconnecting cables. This is actually the power cable, and then you have the cables that go to your motherboard and hard drives and things like that. This did come with its own screws and a little connector block, but we're going to use the screws that came with the case because they're black. So let's set this box over there and get some screws. And I just dumped the case screws out that came in that tray out into the tray so we could see what we're doing. We're going to pick some screws out that match the ones that come with it. Alright, here's your screws, 4 screws. So we're going to put the power supply in, and it goes over here. So pop this power supply in gently. It's got a sticker on top, but we're going to leave that on there until the end so we don't scratch anything up. It just fits in there like that. You start a screw. You may have to move it just a little bit to get it to line up. Is it lining up for you?
A little bit, not too much. Where am I supposed to put them exactly?
Okay, the case and the power supply both have more than 4 places for screws, but we only need 4. We're going to put 4 in each corner. And when you put it in there, you may have to move the power supply just a little bit to get it in there. And a little trick is if you take a screw and you go ahead and you put it on the head of the screwdriver and hold it with the tip of your finger, you can kind of push it into the hole and get it started. Like so. And another little tip is don't screw it all the way in. Leave it a little loose so you can get the others in there.
Okay. Okay, get one on this end. Okay, loosen it just a little.
Okay. Put 2 in the bottom corner.
Okay. I guess that's good.
Okay. Now that they're all started, you can go ahead and snug them up.
Okay.
Go ahead and snug them all the way up. You don't have to be overly tight, just snug. You don't want to round the threads off. Okay. And it might help to pull the power supply up against the case back fully. That'll help you set the screws in all the way.
Okay.
Let me see and make sure they're all tight. So you can pull the power supply toward you and turn it. But this screw's not in all the way. You can see that one's not in all the way, and this one's not in all the way.
None of them in all the way.
So go ahead and tighten those up all the way.
Okay.
Do like I did and pull it toward you. Kind of pull it toward you. You get good leverage on the screwdriver that way.
Okay. Seems about good.
You want to keep the screwdriver parallel to the shaft of the screw. If you twist it too much, it'll lose its grip and you'll end up rounding the head of the screw off.
Okay.
So you want to have good downward pressure, and you want to keep the screwdriver square to the screw face.
Okay.
Okay.
Got them all snug and tied up there.
Okay, we've stood the case back up. It's time to install the motherboard. But before we can install the motherboard, we have to put the standoffs in. And the standoff is a brass screw. It's got like a screw head on one end and a threaded part on the other end. And this just holds the motherboard off of the back of the case. This case has a couple pre-installed, and we'll have to install the rest of them ourselves in those holes. If you can see the holes in the back of the case there. And depending on what kind of motherboard you have, they go in specific holes. This is an ATX motherboard, and your manual that comes with the motherboard should tell you which holes to put these in. So let's go ahead and unpack the motherboard and get the manual out.
Why do I open this up?
You want to be careful with the motherboard. There's a lot of little chips on there that if you drop it or you squeeze it too hard, you might pop one loose. And you want to keep it in this plastic as long as possible. This is shielding to keep the static electricity from getting to the board. And I'll cover some static electricity safety instructions in just a few minutes. We're going to take this out and set it to the side gently. And we want to get the manual out because we want to look and see where to insert those standoffs. This is a back plate that goes to the case. We'll be putting that in momentarily. These are some SATA cables for the hard drive connection to the motherboard. And they usually come, a motherboard usually comes with more cables than that. This one's only got one. Actually, it's got two, but it usually comes with more than that. And this is a strip that's used to connect Crossfire if you have more than one video card. You got a badge. It's just a sticker. It's pretty nice. I like the logo. This is an installation disc, but it's better to download the drivers from the website than to use the disc. Most likely they're not current. There's a little "I'm not here" door tag. "I'm sorry, I'm busy gaming." I like that. These are some just stickers, some labels. Quick installation guide and the user's guide. So we're going to look and see which holes that we need to put those standoffs in. We're going to insert those. To install the standoffs, we have the standoffs, of course. We need to put 7 in. There's 2 already installed in the case, so 9 altogether. And a Phillips head screwdriver, and the case came with this standoff socket. And the way this works is the standoff goes into the socket, and then the screwdriver turns the socket. So we're going to put 7 of these in the case because 2's already installed. And I've consulted the manual that comes with the motherboard and determined that I need to put one here, here, up top. You probably can't see that on camera, on each corner, and then a row down here, 3 down at the bottom. So Xavier, go ahead and do that.
Okay. Okay. Need a seat 1 right here. Yeah, I can already tell this is going to be pretty tricky. Okay. Get it right in there.
just like before. You gotta get it straight. See, it's not straight. You gotta get it perfectly straight, so it'll go in straight. If you try to turn it with it crooked, it'll cross thread. It'll bind up on you. Snug it up, but not overly tight. You don't want to strip it.
Okay. I'm going to do this one next. Okay.
Okay, son, good job on the standoffs. Now we need to put the back plate in, and just need to make sure the text is oriented in the upright position. And the back plate goes in this little slot back here. Just going to push it through like so. So go ahead and do that, son.
Okay. Okay, which way?
Make sure it's oriented the right direction. You want the text to be up and to the left.
Up and to the left. Okay.
Oh look, you got it backwards. You got it backwards. It was right the first time.
My bad.
So the motherboard's gonna set on the bottom. Okay? So these set on the bottom.
Okay.
So from the inside, you gotta go inside and line it up. And if you put it in wrong, you can snap it out. Just gotta get it lined up. You gotta line it up all the way. Alright? Now press around the edges and snap it in.
Well, that snaps in pretty easily.
There we go. Alright?
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to put the processor into the motherboard, and we can wait and do this after we install the motherboard into the case. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. It's easier to see on camera. But this is an AMD processor, and if you look closely, there's a gold corner right here, and none of the rest of the corners have a gold corner. It's hard to see a little through the pack, but it's important that you don't touch the back of these pins. Hold the sides of the processor so your oils from your fingers don't get onto the pins. But if you notice that there's some blank places in the back where the pins are, and it's in a particular pattern, and that pattern matches the pattern on the motherboard. So that's another way you can tell which way you're aligning the chip when you set it in. So what's going to happen is you press this lever kind of down and out, and then lift it up, and it releases the grip on the inside of this seat here. And then you take this out, and you're going to drop it in there, wiggle it just ever so slightly to make sure that the pins fall into those holes, and then you're going to close the lever. Okay, so I'm going to let you go ahead and do that. And it's very important that you don't touch the back and you don't drop the chip. So go ahead and lift your lever first.
Yes, sir.
Alright. Now open the case easily. Don't let it fly everywhere. Okay. Look, hold, keep it, hang on. You're pulling a little too hard. You're going to make it fly everywhere. So let's put it down on the surface and open it. Okay. Now that it's on the surface, it's easier to pick up out of the box. So the triangle's oriented on this side, so it's going to go this way. Okay. So go ahead and pick that up.
Okay.
Alright, and hold it into position over the motherboard.
It's actually kind of heavy.
It's got a lot of transistors in there, they're dense. Alright, so hold it over the motherboard. Don't touch, leave it like you got it. Look, leave it like you got it.
I'm gonna drop it. I'm gonna drop it.
We'll set it now. Set it now.
That's what I'm trying to do that.
Alright. Look. Hold it like this. Just gonna drop it in like this. Wiggle it a little bit. Okay? Now I want you to do it. Because this is your PC, you're supposed to be doing it. So.
Okay. So I need to have the gold quantity over here, right?
Right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Don't press it, just kind of let it fall into place. There you go. Wiggle it just a hair. Make sure it's in there. Okay. Now close the lever. It's going to be a little stiff. Get it under that little notch. Okay. And it's closed. It's in.
Yeah, I did it.
Alright. And you didn't touch the pins. That's good.
Okay.
Alright. So that's on there, and then later we'll come back and put the fan on. We'll have thermal paste for that, but that's going to be after we put the motherboard in the case.
Okay.
Alright, so let's just, I'm going to leave the camera running and we'll just do that real quick.
Okay.
Good job, man.
Thank you. It's actually a lot heavier than it seems.
Yep.
We gotta tell the guys that, to tell them that that's gonna weigh a lot more than it looks.
Well, you just told them. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to put the motherboard in the case now. And the motherboard, this is the back of the motherboard. It has all the connections. So you want to orient this toward the back of the case. And you slip it in and you align it with those standoffs and align it with the back plate so that the ports can align with the back plate. So go ahead and do that. Be careful and don't drop it. Don't bend any of the pins.
Okay. Feels like it weighs about like 10 pounds. Okay. Maintain it like this.
Now it goes the other way. Goes this way.
Okay.
It's not extremely fragile, but you still need to be careful with it. So yeah, I'll help you with this part.
Okay.
I'll align it, slip it in, make sure it's aligned on the standoffs.
Back towards you a little bit. Okay. Back towards there.
Okay. We'll have to. That's better. That better.
Okay.
Is it in? That's it. Okay.
Yeah, looks like it's kind of pushed in.
And we just need to get the screws that came with the case to screw this down.
Okay. What do you want me to do this real quick?
Just leave it right there. That's fine. You can sit right there. It ain't gonna hurt.
Okay.
These are the screws that we're going to use to fasten the motherboard to the case. And they're short screws and they have a big head on them so that it really clamps down on the motherboard. But you don't want to over tighten these. It could break the motherboard. You just want to snug them up. So with a screwdriver, you want to, this one's already lined up over here, so go ahead and put one right here.
Okay.
Make sure you get it straight, and please, it's very important that you don't let the screwdriver slip and hit the motherboard, okay? So hold to the screwdriver and don't let it slip. Hold to the screwdriver and don't let it slip. The other way, son, you're going the wrong way. Alright, don't over tighten it, just snug it up. Just want it to hold in place. Alright, and get another screw.
Okay.
Let's put one in this upper corner up here. Is it lined up? Does it need to go? Okay. Be careful now. Look, you can't poke the motherboard with a screwdriver. You gotta, you gotta be very careful. If you scratch those little paths on there, it could break the connection in the motherboard and have to be resoldered, or you could snap off a component. Other way, son. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. When you tighten it up, it goes like a clock goes round. When you want to loosen it, it goes counterclockwise. Now that the motherboard's in place, we can install the heatsink. And what the heatsink does is it dissipates the heat from the processor. This is a heatsink that came with this processor. It's got a fan on top of it. It's usually better to orient this cable toward the direction of the fan header on the motherboard. So we're going to do that. And it came with thermal paste already on it, but I cleaned it off. I'm going to put some Arctic Silver thermal paste on. So I took some alcohol, just some regular alcohol. This is 91%, and a lint-free cloth, and wiped the old thermal paste off of the heatsink. And I also cleaned the processor, but I'm going to let Xavier do it again because he's supposed to be doing this. Okay, so son, go ahead and clean the processor with the alcohol. Make sure to not touch the processor after you clean it. You don't want the oil on your skin to get on the processor. It causes more heat. So rub it thoroughly, get it really clean. You want to make sure there's no oil on top of it. And you don't have to be delicate. You can actually rub a little firm, not overly hard, but just a little firm. And make sure you clean the whole surface.
Okay.
Alright. And once again on the heatsink, go ahead and clean that. Just go ahead and wipe it. Wipe it.
Okay.
Just wipe it off. There you go. That's good. I already cleaned it, but alright. And the thermal paste, this is the thermal paste. It doesn't take very much at all because when this goes on, it's going to spread. It clamps down and it's going to spread the liquid over the surface of the processor. So it doesn't take very much. So I'm just going to do this part because Xavier doesn't really know how much it takes. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here, and it just takes a little pea size. That's probably just a little too much, but we're going to go with that. I couldn't really see, so I put just a little too much on there, but it's okay. Any excess will kind of squeeze out. As long as it's not too much, it'll be okay. So this part, this latches on to a buckle that's on the motherboard. It came pre-installed. If you're using a water pump, you'll have to change that out, but this is a heat sink. It comes pre-installed, so we're going to go with that. And we're just going to put this on and buckle it up. I'm just going to set it down. I'm going to let Xavier buckle it up. Just going to fit it in there. Centered. Try not to move it around a whole lot. We'll move it a little bit because we need to spread that paste. Okay. Then we just flip the lever on over and it cinches down on top of the processor. And wiggle it a little bit, make sure that thermal paste gets good and distributed. And that's it for installing the mechanical part. Now we just need to connect the fan header, and the fan header on this motherboard goes right here. It's hard to see. I'm going to try to tilt it up. The fan, if you can see that, it says CPU fan, and this just slides on top of those pins right there. I'm going to let Xavier put that on.
Okay. Where did I put this in at?
Goes right here, buddy.
Right there? Okay.
Just need to make sure you orient it the correct way.
Yeah.
There's a little plastic tab. It's hard to see because it's black, but there's a little plastic tab on this side, you see?
Oh yeah.
And it lines with this plastic tab, so it needs to go like that with the buckle side toward the processor. So line the pins up and gently push it on. You don't want to push it too firmly in case it's misaligned. You don't want to mess the pin up. So make sure you got it on there. All 4 pins need to go in those slots.
Does it feel like the last one is on?
Now we can install the SSD, it's a solid state drive. This is a 256 gig ADATA drive. We'll open the box. We're going to install it in the bottom of the case here. And this just slips in, and it's got some screw holes on each side that mount here. And also has a connection. This is the SATA connection, this is the power connection. So when we put that in there, we'll have to connect that from the back. So Xavier, go ahead and put the solid state drive in. It just slides in, it's like a little track. You want to put the connection toward the back. Xavier, connection toward the back.
My bad.
And there's no stop, so you just have to slide it in there and align the screw holes with the side of the cage, and then take 4 thumb screws and screw those in.
Okay. Thank you for the light, Dad.
Okay, Xavier, all of this cable wiring, I undid the tie that was looping all this together. This is all the cabling that goes to the case. It goes to the controls up top. You got fan wiring, you got USB wiring, the power switch, all the things that for the motherboard to connect with the case. So we're going to hook those up, and we're going to run some power cables and connect the motherboard up, and the cables to connect the hard drive, the SSD. We're going to install the mechanical hard drive in a little bit. So let's go ahead and get these connected. Okay, Xavier is finished hooking up all the wires. Just a little bit about what goes on here. This may be the most challenging part for someone that's new to putting a computer together. But these are all the wires that connect the motherboard to the interface of the case up top. And sometimes there's an extra wire. There's sometimes a power LED. This case does not have a power LED. That just shows when the computer is on. The whole face lights up when the computer's on. But on this motherboard, and it could be different, usually the power LED, the HDD, are located somewhere in the corner of the motherboard down here, typically. This one has a power switch. This is the power switch here. And then this bottom one is a HDD. I'll just take it off and show you. If you can, that's the HDD LED that just shows when the hard drive is active. for the case. And then there's a reset switch. This bottom corner down here is a reset switch, and that's the reset button on the case. It just resets the computer when it's pressed. And then of course the power switch here. This is the USB 2.0 here. This is USB 3.0, and this is the HD audio. This has another audio, but it's not used because we're using the HD audio. It's in the same line here. And all this is really just to interface with the controls of the case. That's all these wires are for. I also ran auxiliary cables from the power box. Went ahead and ran a cable from the power supply to the SSD, and also connected the SATA to the SSD, and that's what this cable's for. There's also a SATA cable that interfaces with the top, because this has a removable drive for the case, and this SATA cable goes to the removable drive, and this one goes to the SSD. And we'll also have another one after I get the Windows on here. We're going to install the 3 terabyte drive that will have another SATA cable connection. This cable goes to the graphics card, which we haven't gotten installed yet. This is the motherboard power. It comes from the power supply, and there's a CPU power in this corner. It's typically hard to get to in a case this size because of the cable length, but it connects up here in the top. Let me spin the case around. I also connected the fan that's up here in the back. It connects using a Molex cable, and also connected the power to the controls for the case to the Molex. This runs to the power supply. Okay, Xavier, it's time to put the RAM in. We have 2 8GB sticks of Sniper made by G.Skill that we're going to put in here, and they go in these slots right here, and there's a pattern. It'll run regardless, but for optimization purposes, and typically it's this way on most motherboards, you want to go the first one close to the processor and then the third one, since we only have 2 sticks. Now, if we had 4 sticks, we'd still want to pair the 2 up. If they come in a set, we'll want to pair 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. That's just for optimization purposes. So we'll take a stick of RAM, and we want to line the notch. There's a notch here. There's a long side and a short side, and there's a notch in the middle. This is the short side, and this is the long side. So we're going to insert that in. Just slide it in with the back first, and we want to keep our fingers away from this contact area. It's not as critical as when we're touching the processor, but we still just don't want the oil on our fingers on the contacts. So go ahead and put that in, son. So line it up with the slot, slide it in, and you want to kind of get the back in before the front, but you want to press it evenly all the way down. So press the back in, hear it snap, and then press the front in, and the little lever will come closed. That lets you know that it's seated all the way in. And then the next one we're going to put in the third slot. Push it down evenly and straight. There you go. Alright. Looks good. Next we're gonna drop the graphics card in and connect the power to the graphics card. So let's get this out of the box. in order to install the graphics card is going to go into a PCI Express slot, and we're going to use this slot right here, and we need to open up the slots in the rear so we can plug in our video cables, and the graphics card just slides in to these access slots here. The first step is to take these off here, so go ahead, Xavier, go ahead and do that.
That came off pretty easily.
And this one should be loose enough. You don't want to hold a screwdriver over the motherboard unless you need to, because there's always a chance you'll drop it. Okay, so get the graphics card. And notice that you have the connection fin here, and it's just going to align here and align with these slots back here and press it in, and it'll snap in kind of like the RAM did. You got it?
Good.
You got to line it up in the back. You got this kind of slides down, line it up with the slot, and snap it in. Okay, very good. Now we just want to use the same screws that we took out to secure the video card. To prep for the reversal of the fans that we had talked about earlier, we need to remove these little slides on the side, and they have thumb screws, one on each side, front and back, and there's 4 panels, 2 on this back inner side and 2 on the front. So Xavier, go ahead and remove those. We'll flip those around. Alright, son, good job. Now that you got the thumb screws loose, we can pop these out. And we need to make sure that we orient them the right way when we put them back in. There's stops right here where the cages slide in and they stop, so they need to go this way when we install them back. So we're going to pop these loose. In order to slide these in the other direction, we need to remove this support bar with a screwdriver. Now that the bar is removed, we can put the side plates back in. And notice that we have the stops here that I was talking about, but it's hard to see, but there's a indicator top and back. So this one goes this direction. So go ahead and put that in, buddy. Goes on the lower side, buddy. Okay, now that the cage slides are back in place, go ahead and reinstall the thumb screws to hold them in place. Now we're going to go ahead and put the mechanical hard drive in this little cage here, and in preparation to put the fans back in. So let's go ahead and unpack this. Now this is the rear of the drive. This is where we connect our power and our SATA cable. And this tray here is designed to fit on the side here. Need to pop these pins out slightly, so use a flat-headed screwdriver and pop those out. They don't have to come all the way out, but they need to be popped through the plastic so we can get the drive in. If they come out, that's not a problem. If they don't come out, that's not a problem, as long as they're set back. Now that the slide's on, we can put the drive into the cage, and this just slides in like so. And it doesn't really matter where we put it in the cage. We can put it up here and let it slide in, and then this whole cage slides back into the case. Alright buddy, go ahead and slide that drive into the cage. Just slide it all the way in until it clicks. There we go. Now we can take that cage and slide it into the case. If you notice, it has an indicator. It says top, so it needs to go this way. And it doesn't really matter if we put it on the top or the bottom, but I'm going to put this on the bottom because I already have a cable ran for the power. Okay. I'm going to put the other fan in. Make sure the top says top. Sure those fan wires are out of the way. Slide it on back. Okay. Now we take the thumb screws that we took out and put them back in to secure the fan cages. Okay, now we need to connect our fan wires. One wire controls the fan operation, the other one controls the LEDs that are in the fans. So we have wires that are on the back of the case that we're going to route through here and connect each of the fans. So Xavier, go ahead and route one of each wire through. Okay, stick the other pair through. Okay. Alright. And then just connect the wires. Connect these to these and these to these.
Okay.
You gotta match them up. You gotta figure out which way they slide in and match them up.
Trying to. Ain't working for me.
See the little notch? There's a notch here and there's a notch here. You gotta line the notches.
Yes,
Push
sir.
them through.
Okay.
So push them together until they click. Alright, now do these. Okay.
Okay.
Got it?
I did it!
Alright, so then we can pull the slack back out in the back, and we're going to do some, we're going to tie all these cables up in the back, so it won't look so bad. Alright buddy, now we're going to go ahead and run the wires to connect the mechanical hard drive, but we're not going to connect the mechanical hard drive to the motherboard yet. We're going to wait till after Windows is installed on the SSD first, but we can go ahead and run the wire. So go ahead and run that wire, bud. So push the wire through here. Okay. Now push the other end through down here. Push the other end through down at the bottom. More closer to the hard drive, son. So we can go ahead and connect the hard drive end. So Xavier, go ahead and do that.
Okay. Okay. Now this one.
And we'll just leave the power loose for right now. Alright, that's it, bud. So let's get this thing ready to install Windows. We'll fire it up.
Okay.
Alright, son, we're finally ready to fire this thing up. Make sure it's working. So go ahead and plug the computer power cable in at the bottom there.
Okay. Okay.
Alright. Now go ahead and plug the monitor up right here. This is not the monitor you're going to use, it's just to test the PC. And then go ahead and secure it by screwing these in. Sometimes if you don't screw those in, it doesn't get a good connection. It doesn't have to be super tight, it just has to hold it in. Alright, plug the keyboard up.
Okay.
One of those black ones is fine. It's a USB 2.0. So the blue is 3.0.
Okay.
So we'll save the 3.0s for a 3.0 device.
This is gonna use it.
Alright, so if you look at the end of it, you can see that the white part is to one side. If you look at where it plugs in, you'll see the black part is to one side. So you need to match the gap to the black part and the white to the gap in there.
Okay,
So you plug it in.
so just plug that one in.
Only one of these is actually the keyboard. One of them's a pass-through, but go ahead and plug them both in.
Okay.
There you go. I'll plug the mouse in. You could just plug the mouse into the keyboard since it's got the pass-through, but we'll just plug it into the back here. Plug it in right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, let's spin this thing around, plug it up. Alright, you want to turn it on?
Okay.
That's the button. We gotta turn the power on in the back first. We gotta flip the
Oh no.
switch. Hang on.
Gotta flip the switch. Okay, there's a switch right back here beside this plug-in.
Yep. Go ahead and turn that on.
That.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's turn this right on.
The fans
There
are
we go.
working. This right here controls the LEDs. You can turn the LEDs on. Alright. And let's make sure all the fans are running. CPU fans running. That's running. Turn the monitor on.
Okay. Oh no. The CPU on the news.
That fan's running. Okay. All the fans are running, that's good.
Okay. Computer's working, even though the memory changed. Okay.
We want to run the setup. We want to go into the settings.
Oh, hello.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, there we go. It's getting up.
So go to settings.
Okay, you're setting.
Click on system status. And then hit tab. Go to the date. We're going to change the date. I hit tab. Put it on the 14. We're going to change that to 13. And type 13. Alright, and then go down. And then change that to 14 because it's 2 o'clock here. 2:05. Just change it to 14. Just type 14. You're hitting too many keys. You gotta hit 14.
Okay, 1.
Alright. Now hit escape.
Good.
And notice that the SATA port 1 is ADATA, which is the SSD that we have. Alright. I go back, go to settings, and click on boot. And see our boot priority. This is the priority that the computer is going to go through whenever it boots up. First it's going to check the EFI hard disk, and then it's going to go to the CD, which we do not have. We'll change all this priority later, but then I'll go to USB hard disk, USB CD, and on down. It'll just keep working its way down until it finds something to boot off of. So what we're going to do now is, I got Windows on this USB drive. We're going to put the USB in the computer, restart it, and let it install Windows. So here you go. Go ahead and put this USB in.
Okay.
Put it in. It's better to put it in the back on the motherboard. That way it doesn't have to go through. So plug it in to one of these USB ports right here.
USB.
A black one. Needs to be USB 2. Okay.
Okay, it's plugged in.
We're gonna do a save and reset. So hit F10.
F10.
Hit yes.
Yes, please. And okay.
Okay. English, US, hit next. Hit install now.
Activate Windows.
Alright, so I'm going to have to give you a product key. So type this in. T9 C. I accept. Custom install. I don't think it's going to do anything. Hit new. Okay, hit next. Next. Put your name in there.
My name?
Mm-hmm.
Later. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Ooh, hello. It's Cortana.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask it something.
Can't hear you, there's not a microphone. Okay, now that Windows is on it, we know it's working. So we can go ahead and bundle these cables up, get the sides back on the case, lock it up, and then we'll install the software and update drivers and things like that. And it looks like we're ready to go. Alright, now that we know that Windows is working, we're going to go ahead and get the cables under control and put the side panels back on, put the front plates back on, and get this thing wrapped up. And then we'll go update the drivers and install the software. We'll start by unplugging that power cable just to get it out of the way. And we can go ahead and connect the other hard drive now. So come over here. And this is the power cable that goes to this hard drive. So connect the power cable. Okay, we got the back on. Now we need to peel off the protective film. I'll let you do the honors with that, son.
Thank you very much, Dad.
Okay. And there's one right here on top of the power supply. Okay. Get the side panel.
Listen, you're gonna have to peel this one off.
Hang on. Peel the inside off.
Oh, there's an inside?
Alright. Now we're gonna leave this one on until we get everything. It just protects it, so there's no reason to peel that off. So put it on. Put the side panel on. Just like you took it off. Look. There's little clips. See the little clips? There's 3 of them. They line up with these holes. Okay, so you line up the clips with the holes. You gotta pick it up a little bit. Line it up. Hang on, you don't have it lined up. There you go.
There we go.
Now we put the screws from the cup.
Okay.
Okay, now we can put the front panels back on. Okay, put this in at the bottom.
Okay.
Just slide it in. Okay, and snap the cover on. It's the big one.
It's a big enough thing.
It's got a protective film on that, but we'll leave that on until we get it set up in your room. We'll start snapping these on. Start at the top or start at the bottom and work your way up. Well, it doesn't really matter, but let's put this one up here. This looks better.
Okay. Let's get that little thing in the middle. Okay.
This concludes the Xavier's gaming PC build. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I know we've enjoyed putting this together and spending some time together as family, father and son. And stay tuned, we'll have a lot more to come. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
We hope you liked the video. You may also enjoy these videos.
If so, please hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss out on any of the action.
Xavier, you're the best son I got.
I'm the only son you got, Dad.
Doesn't make it any less true.